So, I've been a little tapped out recently when it comes to my anime viewership. I haven't completed that many shows in a very long time since I've more so been focused on movies and books. It's not really that I've lost interest, it's just, well, a lack of time. But even with that, there is a show that's come out recently that managed to catch my attention and hooked me pretty much instantly, and a lot of people can say the same for it. That special little show is, of course, Frieren Beyond Journey's End. This show is so good, so captivating and so engaging that I caught up in just a couple of days. Which I mean is rookie numbers for some of you, but for someone like me, 2 days is pretty damn good. But that's enough of my obnoxiousness, let's actually talk about Frieren. From the moment we start the series, it was already easy to get pulled into it because of the very interesting way it decides to begin the story, starting us off near the end of what supposedly was a long and epic journey, and only showing us the events of what happens after this grueling battle has ended. We skip past the high-stake demon-slaying adventure to instead guide us on a more personal journey, a journey with much lower stakes. But since it's such a unique way to go about a wandering party fantasy story, instead of falling into repetitions and cliches, it already makes it a very interesting start. That isn't to say that this is the most unique show ever or that it completely avoids tropes, it certainly doesn't, but it still feels very fresh in terms of narrative since the magical elements don't really take center stage. I mean, magic does definitely have a lot to do with certain characters, but it's done in a much more broad sense that doesn't lean too heavily into really diving into the whole structure of it all. It's a much more grounded take on fantasy, and focuses a lot on de-romanticizing the immortalization of famous figures, and reminds us that even those legendary people, those heroes, were still just people, and they have their expiration date too. Because yeah, the fame and glory is cool and all, but it only really matters if the things you were doing that got you that status actually meant something to you. I know it sounds cheesy and has been said over and over and over again, but I mean, it's true, the journey is what matters the most. Because I mean, look in Himmel's case. By the time he dies, yeah, he is happy with what he's accomplished, but he's happy for it because of the people he accomplished those things with and the memories he made with them. Not just specifically the fact that they beat the Demon King, or that they achieved all this glory. The story surprisingly goes deep into questions and thoughts about time and mortality. With our main character having lived centuries, their perspective on life and time is a lot different. And when we first meet Frieren, she still doesn't really understand humanity. It isn't until after Himmel, her leader and partner, passes away that she finally starts to understand just a little bit of what it's like, and afterwards begins to change at a much faster rate than she previously did. She's very stoic and often avoids sharing her feelings, and sometimes she doesn't even really understand her own feelings or herself at all. But we see through her actions that she's slowly becoming less of an immortal and more of an actual person, less magic and more human. One of my favorite episodes so far is episode 4, where she takes Fern to go and meet with her old friend Ison. He's a stubby little Viking dude who I love, definitely my favorite of the old party. And this episode is one of the best showcases of how Frieren has changed over what is, to her, just a small amount of time. Now desiring to understand people and getting to know them more instead of simply living for the sake of, well, magic. She values her old mementos of her old friends much more now that their journey is ended, and learns to take in a lot of the moments she spends with her new party much more. I am an anime only, so I'm not too deeply delved into her past as some manga readers may be, but I do like how patient they are with telling Frieren's story. There's always something new to learn about her, which makes sense since she's lived for so long, and they don't rush into giving you every nitty-gritty detail about her right away. They've saved something interesting for damn near every episode. Sure, there is definitely a formula at play here, and some might find the episodes a little repetitive now, but I enjoy the structure they went for. It really makes their journey feel like a real journey since it doesn't make them stay in one specific place for too long. The cast is one of my favorites I've seen in a long time. Frieren immediately darts strong with the introduction of Fern, who resembles and contrasts her a lot in many different ways. She has that stoic nature and that love for magic, but is just a bit more emotionally driven and amateurish due to her age. Even then, she's also a bit more responsible than Frieren, who's pretty lazy. I will say though, with how the episodes are going, I'm still not entirely sure where they're going with her character. Everyone else I can see them going in like one or two ways, but with Fern I still feel like I'm missing some stuff. I like her a lot and she's a good character, but I still just can't fully gauge her entirely like I can with the rest of the cast. I feel a bit more distant with her after like episode 3. But that isn't to be a complete negative, I still like her a lot. It's just my thoughts on her for now. My favorite character of them all, though, is definitely Stark, this guy right here. This is my boy. I love this guy. You don't like him, I don't like you. Stark is the best boy of the decade. That's my best friend. Okay, but in all seriousness, I just really like Stark. The moment he's introduced, I had a lot of love for him. He's hilarious, and his arc around accepting his fear while still being willing to fight for what he values dearest is both inspiring and a lot of fun. He's just really cool. He's just a lot of fun and has an intriguing past and glues the gang together perfectly. I absolutely adore him. Episode 9 was one of my favorites in the show simply because of his little fight. Then there's the episode with his birthday. Man, what a guy. I especially loved the mid-season end episodes. The Kagemusha-styled story of Stark doubling for a king's deceased son in order to help keep order in the kingdom. I don't know, it just really stuck with me. I like that they didn't go for the typical king is evil or a bad father shtick and instead show that he is a good, albeit flawed father who still has humanity and family to value. This show really does commit to its theme, which I really like. But really though, there's already so many great Stark episodes. He's just a great character, man. I love the guy. And I have to say this now too, since it definitely comes with that part. Stark and Fern's relationship is a lot of fun. It's really lovable and just flat out adorable. It manages to feel natural and doesn't rush anything, and doesn't just shove the romance in your face. You can really feel their relationship grow as the show progresses, and I really want to see where it turns up. Definitely one of the better handled ships in anime I've seen as of late. I am a bit intrigued by the character of Sign. I kind of assumed that he wasn't going to be a mainstay in the cast because of the nature of his introduction and his overall stance in the cast compared to the others, but I did like him a lot for what he was. His short little arc was pretty fun and he was growing on me a lot. Of course, I didn't get all that attached to him, but I enjoyed his presence enough to give him the little old salute by the end of his run in the story. I do hope we see him again soon though. I would love for him to come back with Mr. Guerrilla Warrior. I think that would be pretty cool. But I must say, one of the most impressive aspects of this show is its style. It just absolutely mesmerizes me. The color work on the designs, whether it be the characters or the backgrounds, is just so good looking. I love anime that utilize more minimalistic color palettes for character designs to give them more of that smooth vanilla look compared to a lot of the overly glossy designs you see in other anime, which tends to hinder the animation at times. But of course, that does not happen here. I think the backgrounds are really great too. Sometimes they remind me of old medieval paintings based on how they're lit and colored. They also tend to stick to more simplistic color palettes at times and allow for rich contrast between the characters and backgrounds. The difference in style makes it so they all pop out. My favorite example of this is when it becomes nighttime in the show, since they utilize dark blue skies rather than black and purple, and it just looks really pretty and gives the characters a little bluish tint that looks really good on them. I can't entirely explain the appeal to it since it's kind of something you just need to see for yourself to understand why it makes sense. But the show just looks really nice. The art is wonderful and the art direction is even more wonderful. If anything, the action and magic is what I'm least interested in when it comes to the story. That doesn't mean I think it's completely uninteresting, but the character relationships and their growth, as well as seeing their journey through flashbacks and interactions with the different kingdoms and villages they visit, are always so hooking that it sometimes makes me forget I'm even watching a fantasy show since I'm just so hooked on the people. The action and magic are kinda just the cherry on top. After all, it does still look fantastic, there just isn't that much of it. It's not the focus, so it's really just a treat to give us when we're ready for it. And it looks damn good whenever we are. Episode 9, once again, is my main example. Wonderful stuff. The world of Frieren isn't anything unique from what I've gathered from the first 15 to 16 episodes so far, but they build it very well through the group's travels, which is more than good enough. Again, not anything particularly groundbreaking in that category, but it still does it very well. As a whole, I think Frieren's strongest suits are its characters and their relationships, and the history behind them. I also think its storytelling and messaging about the value of our short lives and the mundane nature of what immortality can be, and the underlying dread and delayed development that comes with it, are also working very well in its favor. There's really nothing that I can say that I completely dislike. I guess the demon characters are a bit too one-dimensionally evil from what I've seen, and doesn't really fit what I think the show is going for, which could really hinder some stuff in the future if it's always like that. But other than that, I'm loving my adventure with this series so far. Frieren is definitely a must-watch in my opinion, and one of the best fantasy anime out there, and definitely one of the best of the recent months. It's also helped me get back into the medium as a whole since I was in a pretty big slump, and now I have more interest in getting back into my consumption of other shows, so I'm thankful for that too. Once again, Stark is the best boy, Frieren is awesome, watch it now, and yeah, that wraps up my thoughts on Frieren for now. I usually promise to revisit these things when their seasons are over, but I've never actually, committed to that, so I'll try to hold myself to a standard here. If this video gets 100 likes before the end of the season, I'll make a full, more in-depth review on Season 1 of Frieren when it ends, and we'll also check out the manga and talk about it there as well. I'll definitely be able to hold myself to it then, so let's try and reach that goal. And with that being said, if you did enjoy this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification because it really does help me out, and let me know what other shows you'd like to see me cover because I have a lot of videos that I want to make this year. I hope you all enjoyed, and that's really all I have for you guys today. I'll see y'all next time. Bye bye.